I didn't feel my heart stop at first. All I knew was that the room, the bright, sterile, fluorescent-lit room, was suddenly falling away from me. The voices of the medical team, sharp, urgent, professional, began to distort, like someone had submerged my head underwater. The world slowed down to an agonizing crawl. The edges of my vision darkened, pulling inward like a closing aperture. And then, there was nothing. No sound, no sensation, no thought, just absence. It wasn't until much later, though time didn't mean anything anymore, that I realized my heart had stopped, flatlined. My body had given up. The monitors had screamed out their synthetic alarm. But I was no longer there to hear it. And yet, I was there, just not in there. I don't know how else to explain it except to say that I was suddenly watching everything from above, as though I had quietly, imperceptibly, slipped out of my skin like an old coat. I hovered near the ceiling, observing with eerie detachment the scene unfolding below me. There I was, my body, a shell lying crumpled on the hospital bed, a woman of 45 years reduced in an instant to something pale and fragile, disturbingly still. Medical staff swarmed around me like frantic bees, shouting orders, compressing my chest, injecting drugs, slapping paddles together in preparation. The flat line stretched out mercilessly across the screen, an unbroken, accusatory line. But it didn't panic me. Nothing did. I should have been terrified, screaming, fighting, but instead, I watched, like a curious spectator at a play I'd seen before, already knowing the ending. And then, without warning, something shifted. The detachment faded. The hospital room began to dissolve around me, as if the walls, the machines, the people, all of it, were made of mist and had been exposed to a sudden unseen wind. A vast, incomprehensible darkness rushed in to take their place. And this was not a peaceful darkness. No gentle night sky, no comforting velvet void. No, this darkness was absolute, heavy, suffocating, endless. It pressed in on me from all sides, a crushing cold nothingness that swallowed sound, thought, and even memory itself. I couldn't feel my body. I couldn't even be sure I had a body anymore. But there was still some core, some last ember of consciousness, flickering in the oppressive black. And then I was moving, or rather, being dragged. I couldn't fight it. I had no limbs to struggle, no voice to protest. I was being pulled through the darkness with impossible speed, faster than light, faster than thought itself. The sensation was terrifying, like falling infinitely into a bottomless chasm. Time no longer made sense. There was no up, no down, no left, no right. Just the overwhelming certainty that I was being pulled away from everything I had ever known. Remember thinking, in a flickering moment of lucidity, is this it? Is this death? And then, when I thought I could take no more, the darkness cracked, like a thin sheet of ice shattering beneath a sudden, tremendous weight. A light, unimaginable in its intensity, burst through. But it wasn't light as we understand it. It wasn't photons. It wasn't illumination. It was awareness, pure, unfiltered truth. And in that moment, I fractured. I splintered into 1,000 pieces. No, 1,000 perspectives. I wasn't just me anymore. I was everything. I was my childhood self, running barefoot through the grass, chasing fireflies. On a humid summer night, I was the teenage girl, standing awkwardly at her first school dance, heart pounding with fear and longing. I was the young mother, exhausted but radiant, cradling her newborn child at 3 a.m., singing softly into the darkness. But it didn't stop there. I was my husband, sitting in the hospital waiting room, staring at the floor with eyes rimmed red, unable to fathom the idea of losing me. I was my son, pacing back and forth at home, anxiously checking his phone for updates. I was even the nurse. Yes, I was her, the one who had pushed the emergency call button with trembling hands, silently begging the universe to let me survive. And more, I was a stranger across the country, driving to work, unaware that at that exact moment, my heart had stopped. Was an old man in Italy, sitting on a park bench feeding pigeons, remembering his late wife with bittersweet affection. I was a little girl in Syria, crying herself to sleep in a war-torn city. Every life, every moment, I wasn't observing them. I was them, simultaneously. Every emotion, every heartbeat, every fragment of existence surged through me in an overwhelming, incomprehensible cascade. It was too much. I thought, if thoughts even existed anymore, that I would disintegrate completely under the weight of it all. But then, something gathered me, something held me. A presence, not a person, not an angel with wings, not any figure my earthly mind could have conjured. It was everything, and yet singular. It was love, but not the kind of love we speak of so cheaply, so carelessly. This was primordial, absolute, unconditional. It saw me, all of me, the beauty and the ugliness, the kindnesses I had given without recognition, the petty cruelties I thought long forgotten, the love I'd shared, the wounds I'd inflicted. Every bit of me laid bare. And yet, it did not judge. It understood. I felt it. Not through words, but through an undeniable knowing that everything I had ever done, every choice, every mistake, had led me to this moment, that none of it was wasted. Nothing is ever wasted. In the presence of this intelligence, this compassion, I wept, though I had no body. I wept. Tears of relief, of surrender, of recognition. And then, as though sensing my readiness, the presence showed me more. It unfolded existence like a vast, multidimensional tapestry. I saw how every life was interwoven, how every action, no matter how small, rippled outward across time and space in ways we could never begin to fathom. I saw how a simple gesture, a kind word, a moment of patience, could alter the course of a life of many lives. I saw how love, even when given in secret, reverberated through the cosmos with infinite resonance. And I saw the opposite, too. The pain, the violence, the neglect, all casting their own shadows, creating wounds that echoed across generations. I saw my own ripples, the good and the bad. And then I was shown my children. I saw them vividly, more vividly than I had ever seen anything in life. My son, sitting alone in his room, staring at his hands, trying not to cry. My daughter, too young to fully grasp what was happening, but feeling it, nonetheless. A hollow, gnawing absence where her mother should be. I felt their grief, their confusion, their aching need for me. And I realized I wasn't ready. I couldn't leave them. Not yet. I turned to the presence, not physically, for there was no form, but inwardly, with all the will I could muster. I pleaded, "Let me stay," but there was no anger, no stern command, only understanding. "You can stay," the presence conveyed, not in words, but in pure, crystalline knowing. "But your work is not finished." And then I saw it, the future that would unfold without. Me milestones I would miss, wounds that would deepen without my presence to help heal them. And I saw the alternative. If I returned, the chance to make amends, to love more deeply, to be present. And I knew I had to go back. But even in that moment of acceptance, I ached to stay. Because the peace here, the rightness of it, was unlike anything I'd ever known. No fear, no doubt, no loneliness, just being complete, whole, home. But it was not my time, and so, with a final surge of what I can only describe as grace, the presence enveloped me one last time. And then, I was falling, spiraling backwards through the darkness, through layers of existence, consciousness compressing, shrinking. The light faded, the awareness of everything and everyone receded, until there was only me, and the unbearable weight of a body, dense and cold and foreign, and then a searing electric jolt. My back arched violently as the defibrillator shocked my heart into rhythm. I gasped, ragged, desperate for air, as if I had been drowning. For centuries, voices exploded around me. She's back. Pulse is steady. Oh my God. But I couldn't answer them, because I was still somewhere in between. Tears streamed down my face, though I didn't yet know why. All I knew was that something profound had happened, something that would haunt and bless me for the rest of my days. In the days and weeks that followed, I tried to tell people, to my husband, to my sister, to the doctors. But how do you put into words something that shatters the very concept of words? How do you explain that in 6 minutes of clinical death, you experience something more real than all the decades of life that came before? Most just smiled politely, squeezed my hand, said things like, "We're so glad you're okay." But I wasn't okay. I was different, utterly, irreversibly different. I no longer fear death. How can I, having seen what lies beyond? But more than that, I no longer waste time, because I know now, truly know, that every moment matters, every choice, every kindness, every hurt, it all counts, it all ripples. And so, I live now with fierce intention. I love without hesitation. I forgive more easily. And when fear tries to creep in, fear of failure, of rejection, of death, I remember. I remember the presence, the light, the truth that death is not the end. It is merely the door. And I know that one day when that door opens again, I will not be afraid to walk through, because I have already seen what waits on the other side. And it is beautiful.